If you lay one finger on me, you're a dead man.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I will be doing another episode recap for today's Days of Our Lives, August 8, 2024. So we continue with yesterday's episode where we see Holly and Tate. They're about to sneak out again and kissing in public, not caring who is watching them, even though they should, because they're forbidden to see each other. But anyways, Holly said that she's gonna buy 2 ferry tickets as she went along, and then we see Tate. He's on his phone, and then he bumps into none other than his father, Brady. So at first they apologize for bumping into each other, and then they realize who they were, and he's like, Tate is like, "Hi, Dad," and Brady is like, so what are you really doing here? You're supposed to be at camp. You better have a good explanation for this. So he's like, I just wanted to come home, given everything that's happening. And he's like, "You're here to see Holly, aren't you?" And he's like, "No," telling a bull-faced lie. He's like, "No, but I'm here given that, Mom has been arrested and, she's in, police custody, and you didn't even tell me about it." And he flipped the script on him, telling him, how come he didn't reach out to him when he first got the news. So Brady was like, "I apologize, I should have, but I was really busy." And he was like, "Oh, really busy? That's your excuse?" So it's like he's been busy, he's been overwhelmed with everything going on, and then with Rachel, so he's just really just as he put it, having a self-pity party. So he apologizes for not being present and he wants to be a better dad, and telling him that he loves him and he really cares for him and all that. So Tate is like, "I accept it and I am sorry, I love you as always." And he, in the end, he's like, "How about I just come home?" Even though he's already near home, he's like, "How about I come home?" So Brady's like, it's not gonna be a good idea for you to come home given everything that's happening, right? And it's better you stay and just finish off, and it will be over by the time you look, right? So Tate is protesting about it because he just wants to really just be closer to Holly. That is all it's boiling down to at the end of the day, right? So we see John come home, right? And he's coming back from Missouri, given that he was held captive and, he was beaten up a little bit badly. So Marlena comes out and she's at the townhouse as well. She comes out of the room and she's surprised to see John. So she was like, I was about to pick you up from the airport. And John was like, "I was just there. I just came earlier and I just wanted to surprise you." So they began to chat about him, the fact that he was found in Missouri, given that he was supposed to be in Greece on with an attempt to just make amends for what he did to Constantine's daughter Katerina. However, before they got into it, John felt a little bit dizzy and he almost collapsed. So Marlena was like, "You know what, let's take you to the hospital." So she takes him to the hospital and to get, checked out and all of that. So she has a million questions because he's like, "I'm feeling good. I don't need all this, but I'm feeling good." So she's like, "If you're feeling good, then I have a million questions for you to answer." So her first thing was like, who hit you on the head and, who brought you to Missouri? Because it just is not adding up at all. So we see Paul and Andrew there at their room. So Andrew's like, "Paul, you're pretty tense." So he's like, "Yeah, I got a lot on my mind. I'm thinking about the fact that my dad has been captured and somebody hit him on the head. So I'm just wondering how in the world that happened. So I'm just really worried about him. And I'm also worried about Brady because Brady seems to be struggling with his sobriety. And, even though I told Marlena that he's okay and he didn't take the drink, I didn't tell her that I actually saw him with a drink in his hand." So Andrew was like, "Did he actually drink it?" So he's like, "No." So maybe it's not a reason to really tell her something that's probably unnecessary. So he's like concerned about John and Brady, and you wish that he could be of more help to them. So at this time, Andrew's there trying to calm him down, and he's also talking about him and Teresa. How is he doing? How is he holding up? And he's also worried about if Teresa will get the deal that EJ promised that he would help her with. So as soon as they got into bed, you got a call from EJ, and seemed like it was pretty good news, right? So we move on to the next scene. So while Tate and Brady was having it out, Sophia went over to Holly, because remember, Holly was buying the tickets and she came back and saw them, so she didn't want to really be seen where Brady could see her, right? Because he would put two and two together and notice that they're just here to see each other. So Sophia is like, what are you doing over here? And then she sees Tate and she's like, let's go over to see him. And Holly was like, no. So she dragged her to the pub, and she is like, you know that Brady or, their parents can't see us together, right? So why do you keep doing this? Like, I am working the shift for you. I'm making sure that I hold up my end of the bargain. Like, why are you being such a witch to me, right? So she's like, first off, don't call me that. And second of all, like, I haven't got paid yet. So she's like, I just been working there for a few weeks, haven't got my paid yet. I only got one check, haven't deposited yet. So she's like, did you get any tips? So Holly ended up giving her tips, and she's like, you really have it up for this boy to be like working for free. So she's like, yeah, I really like him, so you need to just back off now. So before she went back to the square, Sophia was like, did you guys do it yet? So she's like, how is it your business? I'm like the same thing too. Like, how is it your business? So she's like, I'm taking it as it didn't happen. And is he gay or anything? And she's like, no. And she's like, do you have a problem with gay people? And she's like, no, I don't. Stop it. So like, it shouldn't be of any concern to you. And I'm like, she's just really giving some weird vibes. I really don't like this Sophia girl. So anyways, we go back to Brady and Tate, and Andrew and Paul come out of the Salem Inn, right? So they have good news about Teresa, that she'll just be staying at Statesville for 6 months, but she will be headed off immediately today, right? So Tate is like, he wants to say goodbye to her, so Brady allows it, and he goes off with Andrew, right, to say their goodbyes, right? So it just leaves Paul and Brady to talk, right? So Paul also tells Brady that, their dad is in the hospital, right? So, they immediately ran over to there, right? So they meet up with John and Marlene, and John is like, I am so happy to see the both of you. He asks Paul, how is Andrew doing? And he's like, Andrew is doing all right. And he asks Brady, how is the kids? And he said, Rachel is good. Tate, however, I would have to talk to you at another time. It's a longer conversation, right? So he's just happy to see the two of them. And at some point, Paul steps up, Brady steps up, Brady talks to he does talk to Tate, but I'll talk about that in the next scene, right? So him and Marlena have time for themselves after the two guys went out, and she's still confused about how it is that he ended up in Missouri, right? If it has anything to do with Clyde, because she's like, who would really do this? You don't really, what enemies do you really have now? So he's like, Constantine is dead, so it wasn't him. So who could it be? How did I end up in Missouri? And he's like, maybe it has a connection to why Jack and Chad are in Missouri looking for Abigail, right? Maybe there's a connection between what happened to me and her possibly being alive, right? So a lot to unravel as time goes by, right? So we see Tate and Andrew go over to the police station where Teresa is being held before she goes to Statesville, right? So Andrew goes in first to say his goodbyes and check in on her, and we see Tate, right? Tate got a phone call. It's from Holly. So Holly's just finding out where he is. So he said he's at the police station, and then she's like, did your dad get you arrested? And he's like, no, I haven't got arrested. I'm just saying goodbye to my mom, because she's going away for a short time, right? So he said that he would meet up with her later, because Andrew came on and said it's time for him to go in because Teresa has to be transferred, right? So he said that he will meet up with her at the square afterwards and tell her what's going on, right? So they meet up at the square afterwards, right? And then Tate fills in Holly on the fact that his mom is being transferred to Statesville, and she'll be gone for 6 months, right? So she's just there to comfort him, and she's like, you know what? Let's go on that ferry, right? So they went off, and then we see Sophia just lurking around because Holly did tell Tate that she ran into Sophia, and Sophia's just being mean as always, but she handled it. So anyways, they went off, and there goes Sophia in the background just looking at them, and I'm like, don't you got no hobbies? You're not working, she's working for you, so don't you got nothing else to do with your life, like as a teenager? Like, damn. Anyways, let's go on to the next scene because I really can't stand this little girl. So we see Paul come over to check in on Andrew at the station, right? So he's just checking in on him. How is he feeling, given that Teresa's being, sent off to Statesville? So he's like, he's hanging in there. And then Paul tells him that his dad is going to be all right. So he's happy to hear that as well. So that's that on them, right? So we go on to the next scene. So we go on to Chad and Jack, right? Because remember, Chad found the bracelet that he believes belonged to Abigail, right? So he showed Jack the bracelet because remember, Jack sent off John to get some help, and then he took a flight back to Salem. So he's back to assist with Chad and find out if they could find Abigail or some clues, right? So Jack looks at the bracelet and he's like, you sure this belonged to Abigail? So he's like, yeah, I remember she was wearing this on the day she died, right? But it's like, it's so foggy because all I wanted to do was provide help for her. She just got stabbed. That's what I was really focused on, that, right? So Jack is like, I know you're desperate to really find her, right? Because Chad is like, he's waiting until somebody comes in or some kind of evidence or clue linking to Abigail's possible presence. So Jack is hesitant, but Chad is just determined to find out. But so then they hear somebody at the door, right? So they go to the door. So they see this beautiful blonde lady at the door, and they bring her in and they ask her, like, what are you doing here? And she's like, what are you guys doing here? Like, this is my room, this is my bracelet. So he's like, nah, did you steal this bracelet? And she's like, no, I didn't. I've had it all along, but I just don't remember where I got it from. So he's like, this belonged to my wife and all that. And she then begins to say, are you a part of the goons that kept her here? And they're like, no. So she begins to tell her story about how she ended up there. She was in an accident a few years ago, and they did some facial reconstruction surgery on her, so she probably doesn't look the same and all of that. So she said they asked if there was a guy that... She said there was a guy at the hospital that checked in on her, and then they showed her a picture of Clyde, and then she's like, that's the same guy. So clearly Clyde has some doing in this, right? So then they asked who else was there. So she said a woman was there, and she was the one that actually gave her food and checked in on her, and they asked if it was Goldman. So she said, yeah, Goldman's the name. So I really don't know much about this. I really don't have much memory. So he's like, Chad is like, telling her about what happened to Abigail, that she was stabbed 2 years ago, and the coincidence is there with the fact that it lined up with the time that lady had the accident, right? So it's a possibility that she could be Jack's daughter and Chad's wife, but again, she doesn't really know much, and she has a lot of memory loss, right? She doesn't know how she ended up there and all of that, right? So it's a lot of missing pieces to the puzzle at this moment. So at this point, Chad is offering, to bring her back to Salem to find out if she could possibly be Abigail, because she doesn't know who she really is. And, maybe, if they bring her back to Salem and, do whatever tests or analysis they have to do, she could know who she was. She could know, who she lost, because she's like, what if you guys I mean, how can I really trust you guys? What if you guys are with Clyde and all that? So they're like, this isn't a joke to us, like, it's serious. You could be my wife, and Jack said you could be my daughter, like, this could be it, right? You could really be Abigail. So she at some point agreed to it, and she's like, if you guys hurt me, you guys are a dead man walking and all that. So she agrees to go with them, and they go out of the room, right? So let's see if this lady is Abigail or maybe somebody else, because it's been rumored that she is Abigail. She's been a part of the cast for a while, and she's been that lady in that video that they've been looking at, possibly indicating that's Abigail, but we won't really know until further on, right? So that is it, guys. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys for the last recap of the week tomorrow. All right, bye.